Hello and welcome back. Today we will be looking at another paper 2 question from section A, drama. But before we go on, I'd like to dedicate this video to my favorite class in the history of my teaching career. I guess you all knew that already. It was a pleasure being your teacher for 5 years, and you will always have a special place in my heart. I wish you all the best for your exams, nothing but joy, success, and happiness. Always remember that you are wonderful and brilliant. So, sniff sniff, let's move on. We've tackled Tijan and his brothers in the past, so today we'd like to look at the Tempest. So, we're going to go to that mysterious island with Prospero, Miranda, and everyone else. Credit to the artist. I don't know who that is, but I really like the artwork. You can see Ariel here controlling the storm, and there's Prospero and Miranda here. And the king and his men think they're going to die. Wow, what a tragedy. So, just a reminder, for this section you have 2 choices, but you only have to write 1 essay. So you read both questions and you decide which one you're most comfortable with, and you start your plan and begin to write. Please keep in mind that if you are writing the exam in 2023 and beyond, you will not be writing about the Tempest or Tijan and his brothers. You will be writing about 12 Nights and Anansi. So these questions would only apply to students who are writing the exam in 2022. Alright, so this is our question. You will always be given a quote or theme to consider. And here we have power is one of the major themes in the Tempest. What I love to do is to highlight the 3 different parts of the question. It doesn't matter whether you are writing about drama, poetry, prose, CSEC is always going to give you 3 different aspects of that theme to consider. And in order for you to really break that down, you can number them, you can highlight them, you can underline, circle. Just make sure that you're able to distinguish between the 3 different parts. So I've broken it down further, and this is what you have to do when you read that question. Break it down. So first we have our theme, our topic to consider. Power is one of the major themes in the Tempest. Right, so we think about that for a while. Then, first part. Write an essay in which you describe Prospero's power on the island. So this is the first thing we have to do. After that, discuss how Prospero's use of power impacts any one character in the play. And you need to pay attention to the numbers. CSEC will always specify how many characters to consider. In this one, we are just going to consider how this power impacts one character. There are many that we could consider, but we have to choose one. So you choose the one you can write about the best. 3, examine how Shakespeare uses symbolism to portray the theme of power. So here they actually give you the technique and they ask you to explain how, which is pretty cool. Next, what do we do? So I've said this before. On your exam script, you're going to be given a page for notes. So on the top it says, you may make notes here. This will not be marked. This is where you do your brainstorming. You write your notes. And I'm going to show you how I would use this paper. So I like to start by drawing a cloud in the middle and writing my theme. My theme to consider is power. What do I have to do? We have the 3 things that we have to do. First, consider Prospero's power on the island. So we can say that Prospero controls everyone, right? Especially Ariel and Caliban. So we will not be able to write about every single thing in this place. So sometimes it's good if you can specify, and I'm going to specify on Ariel and Caliban. Then the impact on one character. So you have to choose your character. I'm going with Ariel. Ariel follows Prospero's command. He's very obedient in the hope of someday gaining his freedom. And then what about the symbols? The use of symbolism to portray power. We have three main ones: the storm, Prospero's books, and the chess game. Now, when you're doing your plan, you shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, but you should not begin writing if you have not planned, or else you're going to end up with a disaster of an essay, okay? So make sure that you use that blank page in your script. Scribble all over it. And make sure you know what you're going to write before you start writing. Moving on, so after you have your plan, I'm going to show you exactly how this essay will look. So we usually have at least 5 paragraphs. You want to have your introduction. Then part 1, that paragraph will focus on Prospero's power on the island. The next paragraph, the impact on Ariel. The next paragraph, symbolism, and then I will conclude, right? So it's not as difficult as it seems. Once you break it down, it becomes easy peasy, piece of cake. So the next step, write. So after you've done your plan, you take the rest of the time to write. You should have a good 35 minutes left just to write. And then you proofread. So during an exam, you can get that adrenaline rush. You can just be writing, and you are likely to make little mistakes. You want to proofread so that you can make sure that you correct these mistakes, so that you don't lose little marks for things that you knew, right? Sometimes we do it. I make mistakes when I write, and I always have to proofread. And sometimes I realize, hey, I didn't put the D for and, I have AN, simple things like that. So you want to make sure that you proofread. So this is what our essay looks like. Now, when it is typed, it looks like it is not much, but this essay is actually 700 words. And I want to let you know that you will not be required to write 700 words for your exam. Your exam, your response might be shorter, and that's going to be fine. So don't worry too much about that. Just make sure that you cover the main points effectively. Right, so we're going to read our essay. So we must make sure that we pay attention to every part of the question in the introduction. And we want to make sure that we mention each part in order. So you can see I've highlighted the yellow, the pink, and the blue. We want to also make sure that we have an opening line. We're not just going to get into it immediately. So it goes, in the play The Tempest by William Shakespeare, several characters struggle for power. However, it is undeniable that Prospero is the most powerful person on the island. While he is in control of most of the island's events, his power is most clearly demonstrated in the way he dominates Ariel and Caliban. His power affects all characters differently. However, it causes Ariel to become subservient in the hope of someday gaining his freedom. Shakespeare creatively incorporates the use of symbolism in order to portray the theme of power. So here we've introduced our points. The reader already knows what we're going to discuss. And then we have to elaborate in our paragraphs. So our first part will be the yellow, then the pink, then the blue. So part 1, describe Prospero's power on the island. Your paragraph may look completely different, and that's fine. Literature is not like mathematics where there is only one correct answer. We're all different people, we're all different writers. So this is just an example. However, if you have written something different, but you've still discussed your points and you make sense, you should be able to get your marks as well. So let's go. Prospero's power is demonstrated in many ways, and one of the most obvious ones is the creation of the Tempest. He conjures this storm because his enemies are aboard a nearby ship. With the help of Ariel, he ensures that the ship is wrecked on the island, so his enemies can answer for their crimes against him. Before that, he manages to gain full control of the island's 3 inhabitants. Apart from the parental control he has over his daughter Miranda, he has immense control over Caliban and Ariel. Caliban is the island's only real native, and while he is initially hospitable, he is later punished by Prospero for trying to defile Miranda. He is confined to a cave on a remote part of the island and is treated with cruelty. His resentment for Prospero continues to grow, but he is afraid to rebel. He says, "I must obey. His art is of such power. It would control my damned god, Setipus, and make a vassal of him." And remember, it's important to quote the play. It shows that you've read the play and you are proving your point with evidence. Prospero also controls the supernatural being Ariel. Ariel's demeanor is different from Caliban's, and Prospero treats him more humanely. He is loyal to Prospero as he freed him from a tree which the witch Sycorax had trapped him in. So we move on to discussing how Prospero's power impacts any one character. Prospero's power causes Ariel to become subservient. Ariel accepts Prospero's great power and submits to him as a servant. For example, he says, "I come to answer thy best pleasure, be it to fly, to swim, to dive into the fire, to ride on the curled clouds." In Act 1, Scene 2, he expresses that he is impatient and would like his freedom. Prospero quickly reprimands him and reminds him that he once saved him. He then threatens him by saying, "If thou murmurest, I will rend an oak and peg thee in his knotty entrails, till thou hast howled away 12 winters. Ariel asks for Prospero's forgiveness and does not complain anymore. In the end, Prospero rewards him for his hard work, and he is finally granted his freedom. Then we move on to part 3, symbolism. Shakespeare uses various symbols to portray the theme of power. The Great Storm may be considered the most significant symbol, as it is powerful and causes chaos on the ship. It brings Prospero's enemies to the island so he may continue his plans. His books are also symbols of his power, and he uses the magical knowledge contained in them to control others. Without them, he may be considered powerless. This is highlighted when Caliban says to Trinculo and Stephano, "Remember, first to possess his books, for without them he's but a sot as I am, nor hath not one spirit to command." Finally, the game of chess serves as a symbol of power. Prospero carefully plots his moves, just like one would do while playing a game of chess. The manner in which his rivals are captured and the love which begins to blossom between Ferdinand and Miranda are carefully orchestrated. In addition, the objective of the game is to capture the king, and Prospero has done this successfully. So we've explained all 3 parts, right? Yellow, pink, blue, so we're ready to conclude. Now in our conclusion, we recap our main points and we do not include any new points or information. So don't tell me about how Trinculo is funny, haha, and he wanted to be the king. No, do not mention anything new. Just recap your main points. One trick is to simply rewrite your introduction using different words. Some people might disagree with me on that one, but it works. So it goes, power is one of the major themes in the Tempest. Prospero is the most powerful man in the play, and his behavior has a significant impact on all characters, especially Ariel. Symbolism is creatively used to portray the theme of power throughout. Easy, right? If not, continue to read. Make sure that you know your play. Make sure that you're aware of the themes, the characters, the setting. If you need to read it again, do so. It won't take you more than 2 hours to read over this play. And look at the past paper questions, see what you can do. If you have questions, now is the time to ask your teacher. You can write a comment, ask me as well. Okay? See you next time, and thanks for joining.